Shirt show. All right, let's go.
Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Shirt, man! All right! Episode 225 of Shirt Show. We're talking with John from Superfly Printing in New York. Let's go!
Hey, Ricky.
Hey, Dylan. Do
Andrew.
you know Andrew? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Dylan Gilligan.
You called me Dylan. You didn't say G, my guy.
Okay, yeah, sorry. That comes later.
Okay.
I have it scripted, and it'll come. It will come.
That's what she says.
It's pretty stacked up over here. It's like that time of year, man. Like we should probably be here on Saturday. Honestly, on Saturdays.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not that busy. But
Yeah.
you got a lot of
it's
schoolwork.
There's some schoolwork. Yeah. I think that, you say that sort of stuff, and I don't know if that's a good thing,
I think it's a good thing. I just think it's that time of year where like
Mhm.
sports teams are ordering shit and school's back and people are getting all their stuff in.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Work's been pretty good. We're trying to get some stuff changed up. I think we told you, I think I said it in the last episode, where we're thinking about turning their 6.8 Sportsman into a DTF auto, basically. Did I tell you that?
No.
Electrician came
Okay.
in and we're getting 2 drops put in, and I ordered a grid laser.
Mhm.
So we're going to drop a grid laser from the ceiling to where the pallet will have like inch grid lines all over it. And then we're putting in 2 stamps on the auto. So yeah, we can just lay down, hits both stamps, come around, peel it. Or we're going to do stamp. We're going to play with it. If we're going to do stamp and then post press, like someone on the other side peeling, and then it gets the post press all in one spin, or if we're just going to double spin and do stamp at like 4 seconds on each, and then peel it and get it with a second spin post press.
Mhm.
But pretty excited about it.
I think that there are certain scenarios where a oval automated heat press would be faster than a side-by-side, like a twin press. And so I think I would love to do a comparison, like a speed test, So
Yeah,
like
we're
if
going
you
to
had-
do that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would love to do that also and have can you get more done? Because I think in certain scenarios, you would have 2 people operating the auto, the oval, or what would you call it? Just an automated press. And I think you would have 2 people operating that, or you could have 2 people operating a twin heat press, right? And who puts out more, or is it equal?
Mhm.
Because obviously those twin heat presses are like $1,000, and so and I know in your scenario, you're talking about converting a press to do something when it's not running shirts.
One of the things, it'll be faster, we believe. The other thing is that we hate loading and unloading things on the heat presses. There's just so much stuff underneath that it's like more difficult to just like speed load like you would normally load like an auto, and like sleeves and everything. It's just we think it's going to be a lot easier on the press than it would be on the heat presses.
Okay.
So if we got everything set up there, and like I said, if we do 2 stamps right next to each other, it's going to be like the rock one, where basically they're 4 seconds each. So you have a 4-second dwell. At the lowest or whatever, say you did 5 seconds or whatever, then it's doing 4 on one and 4 on the next to give you that 8 to 10 second press. That would be if we were trying to go really fast, I think. But if we did it the other way, where we did stamp here and then a stamp with like heavy linen on it on the other side, then someone could peel before it hits it, and then everything's one spin.
Yeah, I like that.
But then that's 2 operators. So One's one operator, one's two operators. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know. We're gonna play around with it. Like I said, the electrician's gonna come in and do the drops. We already have the stamps. We're gonna try it out. I'll let you know how it goes.
Okay.
Frank.
It all starts with the screen, and whether it's new stretches or restretches, Frank and his team do it the best. To find out more, go to graphicscreenfashion.com, FFFFF,
Rank.com.
or great fucking
Screens.com.
cleaning screens is no fun. We talked about that. But EasyWay makes it way more funner. Their line of eco-friendly chemicals will make reclaiming screens a whole lot easier. Check them out at easyway.com. EasyWay.
It's the easiest way, baby.
GraphX is the source for production-ready digital art and remote art staffing. We use them every single day. They can help any size shop, from garage shops to, well, retail shops.
Ultra mega world domination shops.
Those two. So learn more at graphxsource.com.
Hell yeah, brother.
Choosing the right emulsion for your shop is complicated, and that's why we love Chromaline. We went all over the reasons of why it is tough. It is complicated. There's lots of things. There's humidity, and there's other things. I couldn't think of anything else, but there's other things.
There's many.
So look, go to chromaline.com to watch Kev's vids, or contact him on Instagram at the Emulsion Guru and get the answers you want, and the answers you really, really want, and
The ones you really, really, really want.
that's right.
Also, too, we talked about this earlier. We should note that Kevin was on and we talked about a thickness gauge.
Did.
And then we got the link and we posted it on Instagram. So the link to buy it on Amazon, and it is now sold out on Amazon.
Yeah, we should have got like at least 10 cents.
We did not do a referral link, but yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah, so it will be.
I'd be happier if they restocked it so more people could get it. But
I think they will. I think that's how it works. So we'll see. S&S has been our go-to apparel source since day one, with over 88 brands. That's right. They have more brands than keys on a piano. That's going to be their new.
I can tell you.
That's going to be their new. They're going to use that.
I bet. Yeah, that sounds really good.
Some of those include Adidas, Columbia, Independent, Gildan,
and many, many more.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
You like that?
Yeah. Check them out at ssactivewear.com.
Speaking of, you're going to be going to a little S&S show here in a couple days, right?
Yeah, we are going to the product preview
In Salt Lake. You son of a bitch.
Yeah. Can't wait. So it'll be nice to get away for
It's beautiful
a few
there.
minutes.
One of my favorite places.
So, Dylan, the weathered hues of comfort colors are inspired by nature. So it makes total sense that their dye process would be made with respect for it too.
Obviously.
The Pigment Pure process produces earth-friendly colors by using a third less water, taking 40% less process time, and consuming less energy, and requiring zero salt. Do you want to talk about Screen Print GPT?
Well, I was talking to Matt. We were talking about his tools, and then we were talking about his newer project, DTF Stream. So that was awesome. But Matt just talked to us today about a new tool. I don't know if we should say or not, that he is about to put out for free on screenprintgpt.com, which is my biggest push for going to screenprintgpt.com, is because Matt keeps putting out awesome tools that are free. And the whole website is free. Like, you are an idiot if you don't go there and use the tools and just ask it questions and make it a part of your shop for you and all your employees. So you should do it. You should check it out.
That's that, baby.
Hey, bud. What do we got today?
D, my guy. Today, we are talking with John Soups from Superfly, printing in New York, actually. He's up there with you, I think, somewhere.
Long Island.
Yeah.
I believe. How's it going, dude? How are you?
Great. How's it going? Great to be here.
Yeah, I'm in warm Florida right now, dodging hurricanes, and not in New York, where I bet it's rainy and cloudy and cool.
Yep. It's exactly what it is.
I was like, it was like 55 degrees when I left yesterday.
Hmm.
And it's 85 here and hot.
As long as we're talking weather, I thought I would share St. Louis's because it's fascinating stuff. We are very fall-like over here, finally, and it feels great. Crisp
No
air.
cicadas.
So you know that I lost 5 trees to cicadas.
You know what's funny? And remember how we went on that walk a couple times around your area when the cicadas were really bad and they were all over the place?
Gosh,
Do you remember how I kept saying that I felt wet? Like I felt like I was getting rained on or wet or whatever.
No,
I saw a thing about cicadas that they just like shoot piss. So I think all those times we were walking and I was like getting wet, it was just cicada piss.
Well, apparently cicadas. So I don't know if you know, a lot of the country did, but St. Louis had a like once in 100-year cicada. I don't know. They kind of come out of the ground, right? And so we get some every year, but this was just insane. And so we literally probably had 10,000 cicadas alone just in our yard.
Yeah.
And what they like to do, which is a little odd, is they like to burrow holes in your trees and then put their eggs in it, basically have sex with your trees, and so what that does to younger trees is it kills them apparently. And so we had, I just spent $3,000 removing trees and removing 5 trees and planting 3 new ones and then overseeding and putting straw down I just gave up on a couple of them. I was like, nah, we're not going to do this. And so, yeah, that's what happened. $3,000.
I love that this is the conversation you're getting when you come in, and it's just like we're talking about cicada piss and and all that good stuff. So anyway, what's up, dude? I see you. Christina told me you moved your location so we could see this beautiful shop. It looks awesome. I love the floors.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's a big old industrial building in the middle of my small little beach town on the North Shore of Long Island in a town called Seacliff. So. It's a very unique Brooklyn-esque building. I actually rent the whole top floor of this building, 3,000 square feet, and I use about 1,000 square feet of it. And then I sublet the other space to other artists. And that pretty much is how we can have this whole space. I
was going to say, was that the plan so that you could kind of afford that space?
Yeah, there was I walked into a similar situation before this. It was about 12 years ago. My manual setup was in my parents' garage. Winter was coming. I needed a place to not be that was heated, not be outside pretty much. And a friend of mine said her mom runs an art studio. Go talk to her. And I went over there, and it was very weird situation. It was the building was the headquarters of adult movies distribution, and since that was starting to die out, because people can find that for free elsewhere, the owner of the building had this extra space. He was a very special, unique character, and he rented out space to artists, and this lady rented the place. She had one little space available in the corner, and she was showing it to myself and 2 other people at the same time. And then after she showed the space, was like, all right, well, does anyone want it? And I needed it. And I basically pushed the other people out of the way and was like, I'll take it. It was $200.
Isn't that
a quarter.
Have you had to deal with that at all, Andy? Like, I feel like that's a newer thing where they just like show it to a bunch of people at the same time. It's not like you go make an appointment and you look at it and then they're like, oh, tell us how you feel and would you be interested in making an offer? It's like literally you in a room with a couple people, and it's like it's almost like that Dark Knight thing where he like breaks the broomstick and is like, we only need one of you. And it's like, it's so weird.
No, I mean, I haven't had to deal with that. I am getting ready. I am going through a lease renewal though. And it's like right now I have to sign within like the next week or 2 before October. And what's really frustrating is that on our lease, we have to take care of, we've kind of talked about these sort of things before, but I have to take care of all doors. So like, it's my responsibility. Like if a door breaks, The mechanism on a door, like the locking mechanism breaks, my problem. And so we had we had this door for 5 years that has never worked. In fact, when we took over the premises, like it didn't work on day one, but we're like, we're chill. Don't worry about it. We don't even need to use that door. We got plenty of doors. We're not going to use it. Locked it, left it alone. 5 years. And now the fire department, who comes through and gives us a permit and passes us every year, right? Says, oh, you're good to go. Fire extinguishers, all this stuff, right? You're good to go. Decided this year to fail us because that door doesn't work. And so I'm like, okay, fine, let's fix the door. So I got a door company out here and they said, oh, it's $1,600. I go, can't I buy like 10 doors for $1,600? Why do I, and we're just fixing the door, by the way. Don't replace it, just fix it. $1,600. So I called the landlord. I was like, Kurt, man, like I'm getting ready to renew this lease and this door was like this from day one at $1,600. Split it with me. Like, let's just compromise. I'll fix the door. He goes, what's the lease? He goes, what's the lease say, Andy?
He's like, what's the lease, motherfucker? The door is not
what's
my
the
problem.
lease say? That's what he said. And I go, makes me really want to sign this renew, doesn't it? But anyway, so yeah, I'm fixing the door for $1,600. But I have two observations real quick. And that number one is that wouldn't it be rad if you had a band that came up with some merch that was so iconic? Like you're wearing this Trails Division shirt and it's just so iconic that you can put anything on it and you see it all the time, like just that image. It's just so cool that I wish I would have come up with a t-shirt and that everybody knows what it is. It's just, I love that. So that's observation one. And observation two is you were mentioning that you're on the top floor of this building. And I clicked on this link that took me to a YouTube video of how you got how you craned your press in to this top floor of the building that you're in. And what was that like? Can you want to share that experience?
It was pretty insane. This whole project of getting an automatic was the biggest thing I've ever done. And because I'm on the third floor over here, it was one of the main reasons why it was put off for so long. But it was a lot of moving pieces to get it up here. And it was, not just, that almost was kind of the easier part. I had a good friend, Sean, who is a heavy machinery operator, and the press, everything he was like, just deliver it to my place down the street. We're at ground level. It was middle of January. It's 20 degrees out. So everything got delivered over there. We uncrated it, came up with a plan. Then I had the telehandler waiting over here. He actually bolted he made he's a steel worker too, so we had steel plates that was able to bolt the frame of the base of the press to that, and then clamped that onto the telehandler. So I wasn't really worried. I was safe with that part. I had 100% confidence in him, bringing it up through here. But then I also had to get a lot of electrical work. I completely tore apart my shop and rebuilt it from the ground up, and also buying a compressor. The compressor we carried up the stairs like the Ark of the Covenant. 4 guys, one on every corner, one step at a time.
One dude slips.
Yeah. So
Gets crushed.
It was pretty nuts. So I waited a long time to get an auto because it was all the pieces that had to go into place. It was very overwhelming. And there was also a tenant below me. They were doing office work. And, when the carriage comes down, the table comes down, it shakes a little bit. They probably would not have been cool with it. But then the timing just worked out where they moved out, and a friend of mine rented the floor below me and is just using it for storage. So no one's down there. So
all that being said, I've never had to deal with that because I've always owned my own place, but like you must have a lot of confidence in that location and like being there for a long time in order to like go through that process. Yeah,
this is this is the crazy thing. The land, I've been here for almost 10 years. It's a great deal. And the landlord is just an old school guy, word of mouth. When I first rented the place, I'm like, all right, well, what are we going to do with the lease? And he's like, I don't do leases. It's just going to be, and I'm like, well, can I stay here as long as I want? He says, I don't see why not. And I'm like, all right. So it's 10 years on now, and that's the way he wants to run it. And it's worked out great. And so before I bought the auto, I had said, hey, I'm investing in some, expensive machinery. I want to check back with you and make sure that I'm still going to be able to stay here. And, just one sentence, like, I don't see why not. So
I'm going to push back.
I bet your landlord fixes doors though.
No, it's the same thing as Andy's. Nope. It's, we had the same thing. It broke, door broke. And he's like, it's a commercial building. I'm responsible for the 4 walls and the ceiling. I'm like, all right, but our rent is, we have a really good deal over here. So I, really can't complain about that. And how I run it over here, where I'm allowed to sublet spaces to other people.
That was going to be my other question is like, are you allowed to do that?
Yeah, totally. Totally came into this situation. So back to the first art studio that I was in when I had the small little space there. I came in as the low man on the totem pole, took like the smallest little corner spot. And then the lady who ran the place was crazy artist lady. And she just lost her mind and left one day and like moved to Florida. And then she was running the place. And then so I stepped up and approached the landlord and said like, all right, well, I know I just got here, but I need to be here. Like, I'll collect the rent and I'll run this place. So very quickly I went from like the first person in, low man on the totem pole, to running that place, collecting all the rent, giving it to him, making sure everything ran smoothly. And we did that for 3 years. And then he sold the building. And then I found this location and used that same model from the first art studio and brought it over here. First art studio, we had 6 spaces. This one, there's, I think, 11 different spaces. So I brought some people from the first place in, and then it took a couple months to fill in all the spaces, but then very quickly it got filled up. And right from the start.
I do know a couple of people that are like that. I think Tyler is trying to do the same thing where he bought this massive building and he really only needs to occupy a certain amount of it where he's subletting other parts of it. Do you feel like that's a good, like, could you potentially make money off of them enough to cover your rent and everything where you feel like you're
totally,
that's
but
a good model?
So most of the people, I live in a very small town, small villages, like 5,000 people, old Victorian houses, a lot of artists, a lot of musicians. So about half the people in here, I knew them already. And then, so I trust them, they're my friends. And then, the other people, if they're going to rent spaces, kind of vet them a little bit. And, there's Ring cameras, in some spaces.
So it's a good area. It's a good neighborhood. It's not like it's weird.
And it's like, it can work in some areas because, people want to have an art studio to go to because they have distractions at their house. It's like, if you leave your house to go to the art studio to get something done, then you're probably more likely to get it done. Right. And there's also some people who like gym memberships. They rent spaces and they think they're going to use them, and then they end up not really using them or just storing their stuff there. And that's fine too, because they're paying the rent. And
So I love handshake deals, and I think that, and I've entered into some of those, and I think that the old school way of just, that's almost better a lot of times than having a like paper, like a contract, like a lease, but
more personal.
It is. The only thing I worry about is in that situation or scenario that, let's say that the guy dies and somebody, and let's say his wife inherits it, or his kid, or he sells it, let's say upon death, or even if he just sells it, he doesn't die. He's like, I'm out, I sell it. The new owner says, hey, I know your rent was X amount, but now your rent is 2X. Too bad. Like, pay me or get out. There's no lease. Get out in 30 days. So I like it and I don't. So I don't know. Like, I think that leases suck in a lot of ways, but then they also protect you in ways too. And so handshake deal is great, but something I feel like if I'm going to invest heavily, in this place and anymore, like you just said, that you had to do with electric, and I also had to do here. Then I want something saying that look, you can't kick me out. Or if you do sell the building, you can't raise the rent, double the rent or whatever that is. You know what I mean? So maybe you have something like that in place. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the landlord, when I asked him, what's going to go on with the lease, his answer was, leases are made to be broken. People break them all the time. And it's like, so
He's
that's
like, just like I break legs.
yeah,
He's like,
yeah. And, yeah, you know, hopefully I have a friend who is also in this building with another business. And he's trying to start those talks so that, you know, if that, you know, when the day comes, if the building gets sold, he's first in line with talks. So
I love how,
yeah,
I love how in New York, it's like Philly or something like, hey, you know, the guy comes to you and says, we're raising your rent. You're just like, no, you're not, you know, and you're just kind of like, I ain't paying it, you know, and so it's sort of
try
like,
to get me out.
yeah, I like
seriously.
that. I like that attitude too.
John, I want to, you kind of, we had started a discussion online about just you in general, and then you wrote me and Andy a novel of your life story, which was fucking amazing, by the way. Can you give us like a quick, like 5-10 minute, like how you got to where you are? Because I think that was the interesting thing about you kind of had like a crazy ride.
Yeah. So as a kid, I was into bikes, BMX bikes, and wrestling, you know, from around the ages of like 10, 11, 12, 13. So me and the other kids, we would wrestle on the local playground. There was tires, and that was our
I was going to say, is it like school wrestling or like breaking each other with like chairs
kids,
and shit?
Kids on the playground.
Okay.
on the tires. And we were like into WWF, you know, Hulk Hogan, and super into WWF. And I was very small for my age. So everybody picked their wrestler. And I picked Jimmy Superfly Snuka. So I would jump off the top of the tires and like land on the other kids. That's the only way I wouldn't get beat up. And so my name being John Skvarla, I was John Superfly Skvarla instead of Jimmy Superfly Snuka. So I had, you know, that nickname. And then when I'm 13, I start racing BMX. You know, I was riding BMX in the woods with some friends and making jumps before that. But now we go to a sanctioned track out at Shoreham on Long Island. And one of the, you know, a friend of mine, an older kid, he ended up being the announcer. And in my very first BMX race, gate drops, maybe in top 3 out of 8, and hit the first jump, and everyone stays low, tries to get back on the ground so they can pedal a win. And I just blast the first jump, turn the bars, and do a kick out and try to get rad, and like looking at my parents. And then the whole race just blows by me. And the announcer's like, and Superfly blasts the jump, and the whole race goes by. And so I probably got like last place, but I just blasted that jump and got
But you
rad.
fucking look cool, and they didn't.
Yeah. And then, you know, he said Superfly over the on the mic announcing the race. And like whether I wanted that nickname or not, that was it. Like that nickname stuck.
Awesome.
So it went from being a kid and into like WWF wrestling into BMX. And then like having a nickname in BMX was also super helpful. And then so riding bikes, riding dirt jumps in the woods, going to local BMX races, and then started going to national BMX races. My parents took me and my younger brothers all across the whole national circuit, like all across the country, raced in the world championships in Michigan in the late 90s. Didn't make it out of qualifying motos, but still was in it. And then, you know, in this racing world, there is like, you could wear a racing neon uniform. And that was like, those guys were the geeks. Like those guys were the dorks. Like the people we looked up to had like just streetwear clothes, like Vision Streetwear. And the local company over here is based Brooklyn, Step Design from Connecticut, Underground Products from Florida. And so I really looked up to that. You know, we were racing jeans and like a t-shirt. And so I really looked up to those guys. Those guys really like inspired me. And then when I was 17, I got a kit for my birthday, screen printing kit from the local art store. I actually still have, this is the kit and the first screen. So I made this super screen, and it was like, obviously the design's way too big for the screen.
Maxed out.
Yeah.
It's literally top to bottom, side to side.
Trying to have like a kind of a gas station looking
Zero place for that ink to go.
yeah, didn't know any better. And then so I'm printing these T-shirts in my parents' kitchen and then bringing them to the racetrack every week. And my friends are buying them. Some other people are buying them. And then I approach the guy from Base Brooklyn, who's the more established streetwear brand. I say, hey, look, I made these at home. Like, I want to be like you guys. And they were like, oh, that's pretty cool. They're like, you should just print your shirts in our shop. Like, we don't even know what we're doing. Like, maybe you could print our shirts too. So come by and go talk.
They were suckering you in to be the labor.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I was 17. These guys are like 20. So I go to their shop and everything. Yeah. And I did all the dirty jobs, clean screens, clean ink buckets, and printing shirts for them. But basically I just became their full-time printer. I think I was making like $7 or $8 an hour back in like the early 90s. But when I was done working, I had full access to the shop. They were like, you could do as many of your own shirts as you want. So I did that for, that went on for a few years. And then we did vinyl stickers in there, gloss vinyl stickers, clear gloss vinyl stickers. I learned how to do that over there. And then I bought my own table clamps and I started doing that in my parents' garage. And I was doing stickers for some bike companies and some other BMX brands. And they were cheaper and less expensive than they weren't the ones that were going on the frame decals.
Right,
they were like giveaway ones, So
but stickers and stuff like that is huge in that area.
Yeah,
like
Not
everyone.
many people
stickers.
were doing them, and it was messy. I was buying big sheets, cutting them up into 12 by 12 squares, and printing them. And you can print multiple colors because you're putting just pins on, letting them dry, placing them back, and then with the money I made from printing stickers, I bought a manual press. I bought an Odyssey Workhorse, like 4-color, 4-station. Upgraded it to 6 colors. So, and then that's the manual I still have. And then it basically been printing, in my parents' garage, fighting with the lawnmower for space. The press acted like as a turnstile to get to the back. But the good thing about a small space,
I've definitely done that before.
Yeah, everything you need, you could put in arm's reach. So I had that press. The shop, they had gave me a bunch of flash dryer stand parts, and I just bought an element from Fast Tex. I called them up and told them what I was doing. They're like, we have a heating element for like $100. It's not attached to anything. Can you take that? And I'm like, yeah, I had no money. I'm like, that's great. They did me the biggest favor. So I got that. It's all Frankensteined up, and
not sketchy at all.
Yeah. All different parts. And then, so, did that for years and years and years. And, just stayed in that groove, like just as a manual printer. But I was printing just enough jobs to make a living, get by. And I didn't really care about growing the screen printing business at that point. It was just, still riding BMX. I raced until I was 23. So 13 to 23. And then racing kind of got lame. And then trail riding, just, making your own course of jumps in the woods with your friends, that became its own sport by itself. We were like the first generation of that. So that really took off. And I just wanted to, as long as I could have the time to ride, hang out with my friends, work on the course, so.
That's something that me and Andy have talked about quite a lot over the past 6 months to a year. I feel like, though, is like if you find a way to live your life the way that you want to live it, and you can supplement that with printing, like you can live your life because of just the amount that you want to print, not that you feel like you have to print, then fuck yeah, that's awesome. Like, why not? Because you're riding, you're having fun, you have food on the table, you have a place to live, and you can print here and there.
Yeah. So this is going from, my mid-20s into my 30s. And, we have a pretty epic, impressive set of BMX trails. People have come from all over the world to ride them. And, just kind of didn't want those times to ever end. It was like, I was always like, I give my whole life to work and make money, but I'm not going to be able to hit these jumps when I'm 70.
Exactly.
So that just stayed the priority, you know. So the screen printing business was growing very slowly. I getting more jobs, you know, all word of mouth. I wasn't trying to push it at all. I wasn't trying to get overwhelmed with it. So that's, you know, up until January, pretty much that's what I was doing, you know, with some other things happening, you know, in between.
Right. But you feel happy now, like being where you're at, and you're pushing
So
more, like the screen printing in general.
The BMX trails riding first priority for a long time, and screen printing was second. And then in the last year or so, I realized, like, all right, well, I'm still going to continue to ride bikes, as ridiculous as it sounds, like being 48, still riding BMX bikes. You know, is actually a lot of us. There's guys in their 50s that are still really good, still riding at a top level, still ripping. So, but, you know, I'm like, all right, now I'm going to make screen printing the priority. And my arms are just chewed up from manually printing. I was manually printing for 31 years. Most of the stuff that I was doing.
with that amount of printing, it makes sense to want to put an auto in a third story of a warehouse and fucking muscle it in, because you're like, I would do anything to not manually print these anymore.
I would say keep riding the trails in the woods, but don't be the guy that I see on the reels, on Instagram reels, that is going down the trails like a maniac at 100 miles an hour that hits the tree and then just lays there unconscious, and his friends go, "Oh man," and they run up to him, and he's just laying there, and his arm is like dangling. Because then, you can't print anything. You can't even print on an auto. But I like how I saw in the video when you were craning that auto in and getting it installed, that you chalked around the floor, you know, because I am a huge advocate of that. Like, whenever we get a new piece of equipment, you're trying to figure out where to install it. And I just love putting chalk on the ground and then just kind of walking around it and trying to feel like, hey, is this the right spot? Because you're trying to, you know, it would be great if you can just, like a piece of furniture and it was a chair and you could just move it around if it didn't feel right. But when it comes to equipment, like you have to run gas lines or electric lines or plumbing or whatever. You have to have it already roughed in, you know, by the time the equipment gets there. And so you really have to have an idea about location. And so putting chalk on the ground really gives you that clue of like, where is this thing going to go? You know? And so it's a great idea.
Like that really helped you?
Oh yeah. The main reason was to see what would fit in the space, because, you know, screen printing for as long as I have, like, I know that whatever press I'm going to buy, I want to make sure I have, you know, as many heads as possible or more than I need. So basically I bought the biggest that would fit in my space. I think I have 19 feet across. And so when I was purchasing the M&R Diamondback, I was looking at the technical drawings and seeing what the diameter was. So basically the circle on the floor was to see how much I could fit and still have space to walk around the edges, you know?
Yeah.
And include, I see that chili back there and that sticks out. And so you're like, wait, where is this going to locate? Because it's going to cause problems because the chili sticks out an extra foot or whatever it does.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
I agree. It's funny. I just went through my Google Drive last week. I was kind of like cleaning house and getting rid of some things. And I saw my shop floor plan in there. I had made one in Photoshop. Like, I did everything to scale, like, you know, a foot is an inch basically. And I went through and I had, back when we got our second auto, I had made a full floor plan with the presses and the heat. It shows everything in the shop just as like color circles or rectangles or whatever. And it's super outdated now. And it's like, I don't really need it anymore. So I finally deleted it, but it took me a second. I was like, should I delete this? But yeah, that helps a lot just to see like flow and everything to make sure
I did the exact same thing with this. Had every inch was a foot. And, you know, figured out where the steel beams are that's holding up the floor and how to spread out the weight.
Right.
Everything like that.
Makes a lot of sense. Andy, you had something you wanted to bring up? You teased earlier that you had some bullet points you wanted to hit today.
Yeah. So something that's going on in our industry that I think is newsworthy is that they have discontinued spray out solution, you know, for dry plastisol. There's a new law that's going into effect that makes MEC, or I looked it up, and I actually talked to Multicraft Dave about this. It's methylene chloride. And so no longer can that be in spray out solution. So
You're talking about just like a screen opener?
I'm talking about if you have ink on a shirt and you have to use your spot gun and spray it out.
Yeah.
So that you can still buy it right now if you can find it, because I think a lot of people bought it all up, but if you can still buy it right now. I think it's something like as of January 1st, you can't sell it like a supplier, or I have that wrong. You can't manufacture it. By April 1st, you can't sell it. And by January 1st, 2026, you can't even have it in your shop. And so what I did is I got on a phone call with Dave, because that's who we buy a lot of our stuff from. I'm like, hey, so what's the deal? What do we use instead? And I have the scoop. I got the scoop. And so the scoop is
just said, don't fuck up. And then hung up the phone.
Well, that's one thing to do. I mean, actually, I've thought about that before of, is it worth even spraying this out, or should we just start over? You know what I mean? Like, should I even spray things out? Because this is stuff cancer causing bullshit that we even want in our shop, and then turns out it is. But so we're not going to have this in our shop anymore just because you can't buy it. There's a new generation by Techmar. It's called TS5. But also, if you're interested, Dave says he has a private label one. It's called DPR, Dry Plastisol Remover, and they're like the same price or whatever. So there's that available to check out. But I think that's newsworthy because...
Do you know what they're made of?
The new ones?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. However, I do know that they're flammable now. So instead of...
a lot of people just use acetone.
Oh, yeah, but I don't think...
The sketchy part about acetone is it's super flammable.
So here you go. The new stuff, this new generation, it's also
just acetone.
It's also flammable. And so I guess you have to decide if you're going to die of cancer, like for over 10 years, or you're just going to explode real quick.
Well, I think also step one is to make sure that if you do have a spot gun, you do have even if it's like a homemade jobby, like vacuum, like sucking the chemical away from you.
1,000%. Yeah. We built our first one with a shop vac, and we just, you had the hose and you put the shirt over the hose, you turn the shop vac on, and it sucks those fumes away from you, so it helps. Mm-hmm. But now we have like one that blows out the back of our shop, just because we're going to get those fumes out of here. But also I've really considered like never even spraying out a shirt. Do you know what I mean? Like, why should we?
Well, the thing is the trend a lot nowadays too is all of these these wash shirts and like the comfort colors and all these other things where like you can't blow them up.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I mentioned something about that to Kevin the other day because we were standing out in the shop and I had said something about that and he was like, yeah, we can't sell it. We don't whatever anymore. And I was like, well, what do we do? He's like, just stop messing up. And then he walked away. So that was the end of the conversation. So
reality is, though, that sometimes you have you have an order that's due. You just printed 200 of them, and there's a little, somehow the screen broke
on the edge
down.
of the pallet where you can't see it.
Just tiny little thing. If you just sprayed it out, you're all good. Or do you just order another whatever shirts and then, set it back up?
John, does that affect you? Do you care? Do you?
Oh, it's good to know about the new product. The way I've had a lot of homemade equipment and stuff. So acetone in the gun was kind of the go-to. But obviously, trying to do things the right way as I open this new chapter.
Mm-hmm. Well, you find out sometimes it's not always the right way. You find out later that it's chemicals that can kill you.
Yeah.
So, bullet point number 2.
Oh, wow. Number 2. This is a little painful to talk about, but I will. So I wanted to ask you guys about your quality control and how often you go over some fundamentals. Do you know what I mean? So like I saw something, I've seen a few things actually lately. And one of them is it's hoodie season. And so we're printing hoodies again. And I just walked by the dryer and there was a print on the back of a hoodie that was too high. And I knew instantly it was too high. I saw it. I didn't even have to measure it. I just saw, I was like, that's too high. And so I went up to the press operator, who's our newest press operator. And I said, hey, time out. I saw that, you're printing these, what measurement, where are you putting them at? And he goes, oh, I'm putting them at 6 fingers. I was was like, who trained you? Who told you that? And he told me about the person that did, and that person isn't even here anymore. And I said, oh, wow, because it should be 8 fingers. And when I said that, I'm like, why are we measuring in fingers, first of all? Because that seems so...
It's the screen printing universal language.
I know, but everybody's fingers are different. And here we go.
We don't even say fingers. We say fings.
And like I have some, and it's just like, why don't we have a maybe just like a piece of cardboard or a jig, that's just right by the press that says, hey, like, let's say it could be this big, and you just hold it up, and then that's how far down it is. You don't say fingers, you don't say anything. You don't even say 4 inches or 6 inches, whatever it is. It's this far down.
Can I ask a quick question before we get into the middle?
Yeah.
Do you not dictate that on the screen beforehand?
No, well, so the image is placed on the screen 4 fingers down, so that when we try syncing on the palette, it's always 4 fingers down. And
right.
on
so
hoodies,
on hoodies alone, you pull it off the palette for the extra inches.
Right.
But
but it's not noted on the screen. And so that's why I'm saying to you, like, here's the thing. It's because it's ultimately my fault. It's ultimately the shop's leader's fault, because, should it be that you have a fundamentals meeting once a month? I think we've even talked about this on the show before, where you just go over a certain list of fundamentals. Just like if you are in BMX racing or whatever it is, there's certain things that you practice all the time that if you become a hot shot and you skip some of those fundamentals, then mistakes happen, And so, I gave the analogy to Kyle, production manager Kyle, I had earlier today. I was like, there's like when you're a baseball player and you're a professional baseball player even, and you go to catch your center field and you go catch the ball with one hand and you drop it. Well, you didn't do what you were taught when you were, 5 to catch with 2 hands. And then, so what happens? Why'd you do that? And so,
but you look like a pussy if you're two-handed.
But you also can make a mistake, and you can also look like an idiot if you drop the ball. And so you try to go over the fundamentals for a reason, And so I'm like, that's our fault, isn't it? Because it's hoodie season again. We're printing a lot more hoodies, and shouldn't we say, hey, time out, because this is always the case. There's maybe new people, there's maybe new rules, or there's maybe, or just things that we have to be reminded of. And shouldn't we have said, hey, it's hoodie season again. We're doing a 15-minute little, maybe, what would you call it? I don't know, not a crash course, but just we're going to go over a few things about hoodie season. And one of them is that it's this far down. It's 8 fingers down, and here's why. And so I had him put on that hoodie, by the way. Not him, someone else has to put on the hoodie. Put it on, and it covered up the name of the company. Like it's for a construction company. Covered their logo up. The hood covered it up. And so I'm like, well, that's why. That's why we go 8 fingers down. It's like there's no debate here as what looks better. I mean, it's too high. We have to lower it. And so fundamentals like that, and also fundamentals about hoodie. Another thing about hoodies is we preheat them. And so sometimes we spin a whole revolution once just to get them warmed up and let them stabilize and move. Other times we just, like if it's one color, we just put that screen after the flash, so you don't have to spin it twice. It's just you make sure you're preheating it.
Right.
So let's go over this stuff, because why? Because we just printed t-shirts for months and months, and now what are we doing? We're printing hoodies. Let's remind ourselves. So I think ultimately it's my responsibility, or the production manager, somebody's responsibility. I can't go over, because I also went up to the quality control person at the end of the drawer. I was like, hey, how far down do we print backs on hoodies? And he goes, 8 fingers. I go, how far down are those? And he goes, he looked, 6 fingers. I go, okay.
But he has bigger fingers or smaller fingers than the other guy.
Exactly. I mean, that could be, he didn't, but he knew right away. It's like, oh shit, And so it's like, my point is that, I guess my question is, do you go over fundamentals on like some sort of regular or seasonal or any kind of basis? And if so, does that prevent some problems? Because I would, my hypothesis is that it would.
I have some answers, but I want to hear from John. What do you do in that scenario?
Well, I don't have any employees yet. I've printed.
Do you retrain yourself every fall?
Yeah. Once in a while, you'll forget something that you shouldn't forget. But for the most part, when it comes to particularly that, I know how I will because sometimes you might be printing t-shirts and sweatshirts with the same screens. So, you know I know how far to pull the sweatshirt off the pallet.
Yeah. I was going to say, even if you're by yourself, like I know myself personally, like I need references a lot because I can't contain all this kind of information and notes and whatever. So I've always thought about just making kind of like a idiot proof cheat sheet laminated poster or something next to the press. That's just like the shit we always do, or the stuff we always think about. Like Andy said, like, okay, if it's this scenario, this is what happens or whatever. But in our particular case for hoodies and stuff, like you were saying, like tees and hoodies, a different placement, if they're mixing in the order or whatever, we just do, everything is pre-placed on the screen beforehand. Like if we we want the artwork to be 3 inches down from the collar, it's placed that way. So every job, t-shirt wise or whatever, we're just pulling the collar just off the pallet, and then it's always placed where it's got to go. But for hoodies, you can't do that because you can do it to a certain extent, but you can't do the full because it won't tri-lock right and all these other things. So Brian notes in the work order and on the form, basically the production gets to see with like the Pantones that pull 3 inches off the pallet. So they measure, off the first one, okay, it's going to be 3 inches off the pallet. And then for the rest of the job, they pull those 3 inches off the pallet. So they know, like you said, with fingers, or they can put fingers on the thing, but it's easier to just be like, hey, there's a fucking ruler right here. Like the first couple hoodies, measure so you can see roughly, like, okay, it's this far off the pallet. Let's just do the rest of the hoodies that way. So that's our fix to that, is just to kind of like have in the notes. Anytime we have a weird location, or if it's switching between goods, it's pull off the collar off this many inches or whatever, or pull it onto the pallet, even if there's a weird one. Or it's
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, and I'm going to state something that maybe is going to be shocking, but it's true, and that is, and I don't want to blame it on generations, but have you ever noticed or come across people from your team that can't read a ruler? And I think that, and I'm not trying to be funny. It's real. And so you'll say, hey, can go 3 1/4 inches, and they don't know where the quarter mark is on a ruler, or a half. They don't know. I mean, look, they grew up and that wasn't a thing they did, was use a ruler.
Say stuff like 5/8 and a third.
No, that's lost. It's totally lost on them. They have no idea what that means.
It's never that though. It's always just a solid inch or an inch and a half or whatever. It's like pull off pallet 2 inches. Like
that's why I like the idea of a jig. Is just like, hey, look, I'm not requiring you to know anything about fractions or inches or measurements, just this much space off the pallet. So like I mean, because I'm just trying to make it streamline things. And but I like the idea of your idea of the poster, because I said that very thing a minute ago to somebody, because so we have some Chili D's, and then we have some a Takana, they're called. It was a flash that's an in-head flash, and they don't have temp controls on them. And so when you're on our Sportsman,
and you run Heather Gray and you burn the shit out of it,
because it just heats up for amount of time, right? It doesn't automatically shut off with a hey, I'm going to set this to 280 and shut it off. It doesn't do that. And so on hoodies, you have to run your flash between 1.5 seconds and 1.8, and you have to remember to do that. And also as you're running your job, the flashes heat up, and so that's why it's 1.8, and you drop to 1.5 as you go. It's a very hard press to run. But there's no poster by the press or even an index card or anything on the flash that says, hey, by the way, on when you're running hoodies, you start at 1.8 and then you drop to 1.5 after your third revolution or something, and so we need a poster. We need a poster by our press, laminated thing that has basics, just like you said. We have it for our dryer temp settings and everything, but we don't have it for, printing.
Not to get into this too much more though, but it's kind of like, sometimes when you put up all these signs on the presses or all these notes or whatever, it just becomes something you look by. Like it's not new anymore. I'd be like, okay, we have this poster with all the answers. but they're just going to keep going without their day throughout their day. And they're not going to, it's not like every job they're going to glance up and be like, thank God that poster's there. Because
Are you saying that we can't win here? This is
yeah, I think that's the answer. I think it's just that we can't win. I think it's better to have notes to these things, just so everyone's on the same page. Like we have an SOP for this, but also I think the best thing might just be, like you said, like the seasonal meeting of like, hey, we're going to have an hour meeting. We're going to go over everything that changes for the wintertime. You know, we're going to make sure our emulsion's in the office. We're going to make sure that hoodies are this many inches down. We're going to make sure that everyone knows everything should clear the fucking hood. We're going to make sure to say, here's the spray tack for this, or here's this, or whatever. And that's what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm. And then there's the hoodie that's the full zip, and then it's unzipped.
John, make sure you tell yourself
then,
all these things.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I was thinking about that. Obviously, like, I really need to hire at least one employee, two employee to clean screens, count in shirts, pick shirts. Yeah. When I was doing everything myself in the manual, with the manual shop, and, I just pretty much doubled what I was previously doing. So I really need help. And like, that was one of the things from watching the shirt show and listening to you guys talk about this is like, for cleaning the screens, I want to make a poster that explains it step by step.
Right. Yeah. I just think I don't know. It's just one of those things that you can't win. I think it just needs to be continuously like slapped in the face of this is what we got to do.
Yeah. I've tried to hire people before, and it was so hit or miss. I have one friend, Oscar, hired him. He learned how to manually print, and he was a pro like right away. I didn't have enough work to keep him busy. He went to work for another print shop. He still works at print shops. And then he's great. Everyone else,
maybe wait till spring now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then everyone else I've tried to come in, people can't count to 12. It's tough.
What bugs me the most, it's like to Andy's point of just like everybody in that circle knew what they should have done, but didn't do it. They just kind of put their heads down and just printed the job. Not that they were trying to mess it up, but they just weren't paying attention enough or something. It's just like, we've had people at the end of the dryer before that just mix sizes together. Like that to me is like the biggest, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, how is this not common sense? Like a customer gets an order and they're like, I ordered 6 smalls and I only got 4. And it's like, they'll email like 2 days later and be like, oh, I found them in the largest. It's like, how does this happen? And then you go out to them, you have to look them in the face and be like, how the fuck did this happen? Like, I don't understand. And it's not like one time, it's like many times.
In John's case, it would be his fault. That's how it happened.
Right.
It's John's fault.
He goes into the bathroom and looks in the mirror and is just like, hey, you did this.
That's right.
Maybe you guys maybe your staff isn't scared of you guys.
That's definitely a problem. Yeah. I'm not a yeller.
I worked in the auto shop maybe like 20 years ago briefly. And within the first couple of days being there, I was pulling shirts and there was a pinhole. Something was off. I didn't know. I didn't see it, but I was brand new there. I didn't really know. No one saw it. And the owner came out, caught it, and just had a shit fit. Just was screaming at throwing things, screaming at every single person in the shop, like yelling at me, yelling at everybody. And then it was like, oh, okay. Like this guy is a psychopath. We should probably all, do our jobs a little better, pay attention,
So leadership through punishing and intimidation.
Fear.
Yeah. I'm not saying it was the right way. I'm not saying at all that he was doing it the right way.
Right.
That's a tough one for me because it's like parenting for me. Like my childhood was way different than my kid's childhood. And I feel like I'm a good person. Like I feel like what happened worked. You know what I mean? And then nowadays you hear all these things that happened to you as a kid and you're like, that's a no, don't do that. But I'm like, but that shit fucking works, dude. Like, like I got spanked and I got like verbally abused and I got like all these things. And it's like, I feel like I'm a good, honest, fucking tax paying citizen. So I don't know what to do. Like, do I just be soft on everybody and then get taken advantage of, or do I just be a giant asshole and they do what they're doing because they're afraid they're going to get fired? So I don't know the answer. Next bullet point.
It's one of life's challenging, really good questions. Maybe it's moderation, maybe balance or something.
Just get beat
I don't
once in a while.
So yeah, I thought, this occurred to me just this week. I've been at the shop a lot, and I saw some things, of course, that we just talked about that were disappointing, but I also saw some things that were awesome. And I thought it would be neat to share some things that like you got high off of, like made you feel good, that you saw happen at your shop.
The spot remover stuff?
Not physically high. And, but just mentally that, where you almost like pause and take a step back and say, this is pretty fucking cool. And for you, John, you are solo. It happens, where you're like, oh man, like maybe it's when you're running an order and everything's just working and it all, it's perfect. And then you box them up at the end of the dryer and you're like, wow, I mean, I get to do this for a living. I can pay my bills just by printing some t-shirts. That's pretty cool. And so I thought maybe we could just share something that instead of disappointing makes you feel real good about your shop.
Yeah, I got two quick ones.
Okay.
Last night I ran some memorial shirts for a friend of mine whose cousin passed away last year, and they do an annual motorcycle ride for him. And so I did the shirts at cost, and my friend and his friend they came over here, and they were just super pumped that his memory is going to live on, and that all of his friends are going to ride with the t-shirt on. So that felt real good. Then there's also a Ukrainian refugee woman who lives in town, and she's just trying to survive and live here with her kids. She had a crazy story of escaping Ukraine. And so she made some designs, and she wanted them printed on tote bags. So I printed her designs on tote bags, and she sells them at street fairs and in New York City. So she was very, she gets like emotional being like, I'm just trying to survive. I'm just trying to survive. And, she's telling me that she sells them for $20, and people in New York City are like, I'll give you 15. And I'd tell her like, no, you need to tell these people, that like, this is how you're living. This is how you're surviving. Like, go fuck yourself. It's $20. And so those are two quick ones.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I think that there's a lot of times that I feel the same way. Like if this sounds shitty, but we don't donate often because I feel like we get asked every single day for like some team or something like, oh, you willing to donate all the shirts and all the printing and do everything for free, and they'll never come to you for printing otherwise. But it is nice when it is a cause that or whatever. There is actually a thing. It's called Society of Illustrators. It's in New York City. That we donate to every year, and it's all like shirts that go to the kids that do this the whole program or whatever. So that always feels good to do. But in general, kind of like Andy was saying, just like good things or whatever is when I think just my team in general are just like really good humans. We all kind of get stressed out here and there, but I feel like we all come together and kind of make shit happen. And there's times where like I'm gone or on vacation or something, and like come back and everything was handled. Everything was well taken care of. The presses were like yesterday. I think they just like spent half the day just like cleaning presses, cleaning everything. And then also too, sometimes we go to other people's shops and come back and they're just like so proud of like the way that we handle things and keep things going. So that always makes me feel really good. But I get a lot of positive out of like teaching people stuff, how to print or whatever. Like we had a couple of years ago, this girl come in from the local like punk hardcore scene or whatever that wanted to learn how to like DIY, like print her own shirts and stuff. They came in and they were like, can we just like come in and you can burn us the screen? And I was like, all right, yeah, come in, burn the screen. And then I was just like, let's just do the whole thing. And then we went over back when I had the manual, and it was like, let me show you how to print, and like show them how to print. And then I showed them how to make it themselves at home without like professional equipment. And it was like the whole process back and forth. And they came a couple times and left or whatever. And it's cool to see like them just continuing that, and they're printing their own shirts and whatever. So it's really sweet to see that. But also too, like a lot of times with equipment give stuff away that we're definitely like, it's not worth me putting online to sell or whatever. And just like local people who are like DIY that are trying to become screen printers, just being like, oh, here, take like 50 screens, or here, take this like old manual I have, or take this exposure unit or whatever. And it was funny because the other day I was looking around at like, not necessarily local competition, but like who's in our area that's a printer. And like 3 of them were people I like gave shit to that are now like online, like have a presence, like have a place and everything. And it's kind of like, fuck, I didn't think they would make it. But also like, that's awesome. Like, I'm glad they're like a thing. You know what I mean? It's cool when I finally get to see like we're competing on a job and it's somebody that I like helped get going. But I think it's cool. I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way with, it's super rewarding when you get to help some sort of charity event. And so we don't sponsor, like you mentioned, a baseball team. We say no. We get asked all the time, and so the only things we sponsor are for memorials, like you just said, John, or for like I don't know, an Alzheimer's walk or a cancer's walk, things like that. And so that's really rewarding. But I had something. I've been working from home quite a bit, and so I'm just by myself, at home answering emails, and then I message people from our team here individually, like one-on-one, and we'll go back and forth with some messages. But this week I've been here a lot. I've been at the shop a lot. And yesterday we have a large order that's getting ready to run with puff on the front. And I saw at the end of the dryer, they were working on it and it wasn't puffing quite enough. It's like, what are we going to do? We had lots of opinions and lots of options, and 5 people, including myself, worked on for about an hour trying to get this to puff better. And we did eventually. And we went through like the scientific method and we tested different, like, what if we did this? And what if we did this? And we compared them all. And I got to work on a team to try and make something better than what it originally was. And it was fun to do instead of just being by yourself. And so, I mean, I know John probably misses out on that, but if you have, I mean, at some point you're talking about, hiring somebody, and that's just a good feeling, I think, to work on a team. Because I think instead of just making things a little better, you have the opportunity to make things a lot better, and it's just fun. It's just fun to be on a team. So I don't know. I missed that from just being at home so much, and I didn't know it. I didn't know I missed it until I was actually here, kind of working with them, high-fiving. Like, hey, we made this better. Type of attitude. You know what I mean?
He doesn't get that with printing, but you get that with BMX. Like BMX is a very like community-based thing.
Sure.
But you're not out riding trails by yourself. Generally, you're got a bunch of kids with shovels.
Yep. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Sometimes it's, you do all the work and then everyone shows up.
Mm-hmm.
That's bad etiquette.
Yeah. Andy, you have some over-unders for us today?
I do. I have 2 over-unders. And so, John, I'm going to start with you. And you just let me know if you think this is overrated, underrated, or properly rated. Number 1, organic food.
I think it's underrated. Probably would be better, But then you get into a weird area where is it really organic? Or is there?
Exactly.
It's hard to, it's like, so, there's one definition and then there's another definition. If it was actually truly 100% organic, then yeah, I think it's underrated. It needs to, it would be good for everyone to eat more organic food.
I think it's something that I strive for, is to get organic as much as possible. But I also, again, just like John said, it's like, it really sucks when it's like they found a loophole to promote it as organic just because they didn't do this one thing, but there's a lot of other bad things that they do to get it to happen. I also hate that it's like 3 times the cost of a non-organic item, which is just like a real big kick in the balls. But yeah, I think you should do it as much as possible.
Yeah, I'm going with properly rated because I'm sort of in doubt sometimes too. And so if I'm standing with the price thing, if I'm standing there, bananas, for example, it's really easy because you can buy bananas for 39 cents or 49 cents if they're organic. It's like 10 cents. Who cares? I'm going organic. But isn't bananas one of those things though, where it's like so modified by humans, they're not even what original bananas are anymore? So how the fuck is it organic? Well, I mean, they don't use pesticides and all this stuff, supposedly. And that's kind of the point though, isn't it? Like, too, is that how do you really are placing a lot of trust in the oversight of like the farmer, and they plant a field and part of it's organic, part of it's not. And who's to say if you just don't say it's all organic? I don't even know. And so, yeah,
not to go too crazy on this too, but it kind of falls the same with our field of like people selling like very like eco-friendly products and whatever. And it's like, you could sell an eco-friendly blank and you're using the most eco ink, but then you're blowing out all your shirts with a pinhole with cancer chemicals.
There you go. Yeah, true.
And then it's like, well, how organic is this anymore?
All right. Next, Halloween decorations.
On Long Island, it's way overrated. There are houses that are just they start a month in advance. Their cars will line up for miles, and it just, overrated. I guess I don't have any kids. Maybe if I had kids or if I was a little kid, it wouldn't be overrated. But for, sometimes cranky old man, it's just like, oh, okay.
I am 100% the cranky old man when it comes to decorating in general, like Christmas, like Halloween, all those things. I feel like it's such a waste of time to like pull all the shit from the attic, set it all up for like a month, tear it all down, carry it back up to the attic, and do the next thing. Like I'm very much, and you know what I'm super fucking overrated on are those stupid inflatable decorations. People fill their yard with like a ton of giant like fan inflatable like things they bought at Lowe's for like $200, and then like that's cheating. It's dumb. Put it away.
Yeah, it was on a walk yesterday morning with Joanne, and it was kind of misting here in St. Louis, and we started to come up on this house, and there was this life-size human girl hanging from a tree. It was fake, obviously, but it looked real. They were just hanging in the front yard from a tree, like from a rope. I was like, oh my God, and so like at night you would be startled a little bit if you didn't know, oh, Halloween is coming up or whatever. But they just had something hanging, a person almost like you would put as, how the people used to do it when if you were marking your territory or whatever, you would put skulls outside of your thing and just like, hey, come around here, you're going to get fucking head cut off, and we'll just put your skull right there. Move on. This is our territory kind of thing. There's just a person hanging in the front yard.
You ever see that Christmas video of the guy who made he had the ladder and then a fake guy that he made like a mechanism so the legs would swing, where he looks like he's hanging Christmas lights, and then he fell off the ladder and was just hanging on the gutter. Well, there's a video of a guy like running, like parking, running, and like, I got you. You're good. You're going to live. And it was all on like ring cam. And it was like, he found out that it was like a fake thing and just like super embarrassed or whatever. That's what I feel about that.
I guess we're all old men and we're
just cranky dudes and like, fuck it. Let's not do it. Let's print more shirts.
I thought for sure John was going to say underrated because he loves wrestling and BMX. I mean, that kind of goes in line. Like, hey, it's like, yeah, I go all out. My whole yard is Halloween decorations or something. I was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I have too many friends, female friends that, maybe end of July, they're like, ooh, spooky Halloween season's around the corner. And it's just like, all right, shut up.
Pumpkin spice everything.
Yeah. It's annoying.
I was talking to a friend the other day where I was like, what would be a really cool business model for our area is to just like have buy a really nice bus or even like an old school bus and like convert it and then do like $1,000 a person where like there's a weekend where we just do tours around New York where it's like taking them to pumpkin farms and you have like pumpkin spice on tap in the bus and you just like go antiquing and like pumpkin farms and like wineries. Like, I feel like I would be a billionaire after a season.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's super mom bus just driving around doing these things. It would be amazing.
Well, John.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing your story.
It.
Yeah, that's all I had. Yeah.
Okay. John, I do want to say, though, that the email that you gave me with all the stuff and all the things you've done and the BMX stuff and whatever, like, I think it's amazing, especially too, like seeing you now in that place, like with the press and the dryer and you and everything. Like, it looks like an awesome spot that you created for yourself.
Thanks.
So I do want to say kudos and hell yeah.
Thanks.
And I'm glad you're doing it, and it fucking rolls. And I'm glad you came up in that community too. And we kind of talked a little bit about like FBM and BMX and stuff. And I think it's great.
Yeah. So, you know, when I got this press and when I put the order in for it in November, and then it takes 2 months for them to build it and receive it, I'm like, I got to start rebuilding my shop. So I start tearing the shop apart, and I have a TV in the shop, and I start watching YouTube videos on screen printing and automatic screen printing shops. And the shirt show popped up, and I hadn't seen it before. I was watching these other YouTube videos and other podcasts, and they didn't really resonate with me. And then the shirt show came on, and I told my girlfriend, I was like, yo, these are my dudes. Like, these guys, like, I don't know these guys, but like, I get these guys. And, you know, maybe Dylan, maybe you were on a rant about something about a customer, maybe venting and stuff. And I was probably going through the same thing. And I was like, wow, okay, that was awesome, you know? Right. So, you know, don't change with that. You know?
I'm trying not to.
So, yeah. And I was just, and people talk, you guys have had guests on or industry people that will say, hey, there's a shop where a guy has been doing something the same way for 30 years. And like, I'm like, wow, like that's kind of me. And then I step up, buy the auto, watch the shirt show. And I'm like, all right, now is the time to start, you know, learn some more and get real deep into this. You know, like I used an emulsion that wasn't for textiles forever, you know, because it was yellow and they could see through it to line up screens, you know. And what I've learned just from you guys and what you do, it was like, it really, really like motivated me on this journey and informed me, and it helped a lot, you know. So
thanks, dude.
Like, yeah, so I'm a big fan of the show, and I got to really thank you guys, you know, for doing what you do, because it made this whole process of getting an auto in here and everything, like, you know, it made it a lot easier.
But I do want to say on top of that, though, like I said, we've been saying too, that if you can do this screen printing thing and also live the life you want to live, then do that. Like we've had a couple of people on where it's just like, yeah, we're a husband and wife and we have a garage, we have a shop, and it lets us travel and have our life and do all this other stuff. It's like, dude, that's amazing. So like, if you want to fucking ride bikes, if you want to ride bikes, dude, and then print on your other time, then fuck yeah. Yeah. You're doing it right. Like, look at you. Like, turn around and look at what you have.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
you're fucking doing it right.
Yeah, before this year and before this project, I would get slow in the winter, January, February, March, and I'd go to Puerto Rico and I'd rent a house with my friend in Puerto Rico. And I would tell my steady customers before, like, hey, I'm going to be gone for a month. If there's anything you need, I'll either do it before or I'll do it when I get back. And I did that for the last few years, basically spending 2.5 months in Puerto Rico. And then I get a big order. I got an order for Joan Jett. And so that was pretty huge. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to fly home. And then flew back here and bang out a big order for Joan Jett. And then finish that. It's out the door. And then back to the airport, back to the house in Puerto Rico. So like, that is definitely the plan. Like,
that's the life, dude. That's exactly
yeah.
rules.
You know, so like, that is still going to be the plan. You know, I just had to like step up and get this auto. I didn't get to go anywhere last year because that was the time when all of this was coming in. But that is 100% the plan, is to, you know, be able to still, you know, grow the screen printing business, but also be able to go on these adventures and stuff, you know, not for a month or 2 months, you know, but if you can go somewhere for 10 days, you know, that's the plan.
That rules. Happy for you, man. I'm glad you got to come on. I'm glad we got to talk to you.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'm stoked on it.
Yeah. It was an honor. I'm stoked to be here.
Thanks, dude. Well, have a good day and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right.
Thanks, John. Cheers.
Later, man.